to episode number 78 of New Slang. I'm journalist Thomas Mooney, your host, and on this episode, I am joined by Nathan Wells, the lead vocalist and chief lyricist of Ottoman Turks. Before I get started, obviously it's been a few weeks since the last episode, and the reason for that is simply because I had COVID-19 and was pretty sick from mid-March until just about last week. I really don't want this introduction to be dominated by COVID-19 talk, but I'll just say that it was pretty fucking awful. I actually had recorded an intro and had this episode ready to go basically like the day before it really hit me, but I really just wasn't able to finish it up. So yeah, I'm basically having to re-record the intro and everything. Right now, I'm back to normal. I still have a cough here and there, and I haven't been able to, leave my house in basically a month. But yeah. Anyways, when it comes to Ottoman Turks and Nathan Wells, they released one of my just, I guess, pleasant surprise records last year. It was their self-titled debut. It came out in the I guess it was like September, so like that late summer, early fall area. That record ended up making my top 50 albums of 2019 list. There's an article on that over on newslanglubbock.com. There I had described them as this like mix of country honky-tonk and garage punk grit. Just kind of like this mix of the Black Lips and 1100 Springs. Like cowboy boots, whiskey pools, Lone Star beer, just like late night drinking at your favorite dive bar. There is this like surf rock element as well in the guitar. A bit of like that Dick Dale and like the Ventures thing happening. I first met Nathan a little over a year ago. I was doing a podcast with Joshua Ray Walker, who is the lead guitar player for Ottoman Turks. Nathan was and still is the bass player for Joshua's solo shows. So talking to Josh and Nathan at the bar that night, that's when I first heard of Ottoman Turks. We talked about that and a few other, just like Dallas kind of stuff. And not long after that, it was announced that they were releasing a record over at the Dallas record label State Fair Records, which, if you haven't checked out State Fair Records yet, they're doing some amazing work. They released Josh's debut record, Wish You Were Here, the latest 1100 Springs record. They released The Native by the Vandaliers, and just a host of others. I strongly suggest heading over to statefairrecords.com. They have a really great selection of vinyl and patches and t-shirts and all that kind of stuff. I'll put a link in the show notes so it'll be easy to get over there. As mentioned previously, I do have a new Patreon page set up. I'll be releasing older interviews over there. For $5 a month, you'll get 2 of them each month. They'll range from the likes of Hayes Carl and Ryan Bingham to William Clark Green and Wade Bowen, Lori McKenna, Terry Allen. I have about 400 of them in my archives. So they started around 2012 and kind of run until last year. I'll have a link to that also in the show notes. It's a great way to help support this podcast and then also just support some future ideas that I have coming up. Speaking of which, another way you can support this podcast is to give it a 5-star review over on iTunes. Write a review. Share it with your friends, your family, and so on. This is probably a really great time to binge listen to this podcast during this quarantine. Okay, that about wraps up this little bit of an intro. Here is Nathan Wells of Ottoman Turks. Ottoman Turks, self-titled last year.
Yep, finally.
I guess I was reading it was like 10 years since for a debut record, right?
It was. We didn't have the record in the works at all. That was actually kind of we recorded in January and then released it in August, which was a bit of a nightmare. It was a tough time putting it out and all that. But we did it, and it was fun in the process. But we'd been a band for 10 years. Josh had been in the band for about 7.5. But it started in high school, my senior year, and then Billy, he's a bassist. It was his junior year, and we were at the same high school. And then Paul, our drummer, is somebody I knew from my previous school. He was in my grade, so we were all kind of getting out of high school, and it was like we've been in bands and stuff before, and just put this project together to have fun and try and play some new music and stuff like that. So
right,
it had been a long road.
I think like the way I was describing it was kind of like that mix of wherever like 1100 Springs and like Black Lips kind of like crossed paths, right?
Oh yeah.
And the high school, like I guess like the roots of like high school make a whole lot of sense to me because
sure.
like actually when I was driving over here I was thinking about how there is this like honky tonk element, but
right.
then there's obviously like this like DIY punk
sure.
garage kind of thing. And I was thinking about how, when you're like 18, you're not getting into like these dive bars or anything. You're playing like punk shows. You're playing.
Yeah, there was this all ages club in Dallas that was like the only place we could play. But you could also get a gig there without like any experience. So it was great for us,
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, definitely. And we started in our garage. Actually, we actually practiced in my parents' house in the garage, and so the garage element of that is kind of true. But what's funny is back then we just wanted to be a country band. There was blues in it too, and like some jazz and stuff. We tried different things. Like we'd pull out an acoustic every now, just kind of trying to play all the music that we had like really loved, and it just slowly like kind of turned into what it is. We distilled it all, but the whole time we were trying to be just a country band, it just didn't quite work. There was something missing. And so eventually we just were like, all right, screw it. We're just going to play rock and roll and have fun. And we found like that was kind of what we were looking for the whole time.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like if you're creating a band in your early years and you don't know what you're wanting, I mean, it makes sense that you try on all these different
for sure, yeah,
pairs of pants, I guess. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah,
like,
definitely, yeah. And some of those pants did not fit, let me tell you. But we tried. We had some fun,
Yeah.
There used to be YouTube videos of like all our old shows until like last year, and we're like, we should probably take those down because they're not very good. But
yeah, that's what's funny is like whenever you see the scrubbing of the internet. Like,
yes, yeah, right. Okay, they're getting ready for something.
Yeah, we need to like get rid of all this stuff. When bands or artists, they'll put out like that EP or that record early on, and then like all of a sudden it's off iTunes.
Yeah, you can't find it anymore. Yeah,
they become someone who has a quote unquote career.
Yes, right. Well, I'm kind of like a romantic about it. I'm like, oh, let's leave it up. It's like it's fun to hear all the old stuff, and everybody else is like, no, like this will hurt us because people are gonna search Ottoman Turks and find this old stuff and be like, I don't think they're very good, But
yeah, see, I think like it's like you should use your growth as like a badge, you know
for
what
sure.
I mean? Like,
yeah,
it's I guess like whenever you guys played here last, I think like I kind of feel like your story is kind of like in the same kind of parallel with Joshua's first record, as far as like it taking a long time to finally say like, hey, let's get a record.
Right.
Was that the same kind of thing for you, or was it more of a just never having the funds or the means or the...
I mean, it's a bit of both, but there was definitely like a moment, kind of like Josh, where it clicked like, oh shoot, this is what I want to do, so me, Billy, and Paul all went to school together at A&M is where we ended up. I went to school in Chicago for a time, and that didn't sit well. It's too cold. So I came home, and then eventually wound up at A&M with them. We all lived in a house together. And so we all got our degrees, but about the time that we got our degrees, we're like, this isn't. We really want to give this music thing a go.
You're right.
And a record deal just has always seemed like the most impossible thing. I mean, and then you find out a record deal doesn't really like give you everything that you always thought it did, like in high school and stuff like that. Not to say we couldn't have made the record without it, because there is the funds and just the connections for certain things and stuff like that. But it really all fell into place in a way that you could not have planned. Josh getting his record out and off the ground, kind of introducing us to John Pettigo and falling in with him, getting really comfortable with him. He'd been to a bunch of shows and had said, like, oh, we got to record this. Like, I don't care if y'all want to be a band or not. Like, I just want to, like, get it on paper, so to speak. And we were like, yeah, that sounds great. You know, sure, down the line sometime. And it just became more and more of a real thing. We got more comfortable with him. We felt like, okay, he can actually make us sound like we sound. Because we tried before. We did a record in 2011, I think, like right out of the gate. And it just already didn't quite sound like what we thought we sounded like, you know?
Yeah.
That's such a trick. That's always the thing with recording. But Pettigo is incredible at that. And he did it. I mean, we kind of all... It was a 3-day session where we did 20 songs in 3 days. We were, like, dead after that. It literally killed us. But... so we picked 12 of those and put them on the record. And then 8 more are going to be coming out on the next one. It's, like, basically part 2.
Right.
So, yeah, that was kind of the whole thing. But, yeah.
Yeah. It is. It's an interesting... I think, like, people think of, you know, oh, let's just... It's hit record and you guys play the songs and it's done. But it's creating that atmosphere and making sure the right mood is going through those songs.
For sure. Which is a hard thing to do.
Yeah, I think like it has to both be equally as hard as like creating the intimacy moment of like a really, really intimate and delicate song.
Right.
But then also at the same time, it probably just as hard to create that raw, visceral, piss and vinegar,
especially 'cause,
energy.
Like, you know, when you're at a show, I feel like everybody, probably every musician, or at least most, I guess the Beatles were fine in '66, but the shows where the magic happens, and it's, you know, kind of, even if there's like 2 people there, it's that connection that really kind of drives what you're doing. And so then at 12 noon in a studio with just you and the producer or whatever, it's really hard to try, like, create that magic artificially, I guess. But yeah, that's really the trick. Pettigo's good about it though, man. He was having us do like burpees in the studio and stuff, and like take another pull of that whiskey, which we don't really drink in the studio or anything because we're trying to do well, but just enough to get kind of recreate a show, you know.
Yeah. Because I guess like it's one of those things where you can get all the technical stuff right and have it perfect, but if that whatever it is that's needed in that song to make it an anthem or like a bar room drinker or whatever the case, like,
or,
you know,
or an intimate
sad,
song, like you're saying,
whatever mood it is, like if that's missing, you can just you know it's gone from that.
Yeah, you'd listen back product, and be like, what's missing? Like, there's something wrong with this. I've often thought about like bringing in like a small group of people or something to the studio, like to make it more of a show. But I just, when you had, like, you screw up, you're like, oh, we got to do that again. They'd end up listening to the same song like 15 times or whatever it is, 5 times, and that's
the thing too, is like the I mean, you just said 20 songs in 3 days, which, you know, that means you guys are going through them. But like obviously, like, sessions aren't necessarily what people, like the average person probably thinks they are. It's a lot of repetition. It's a lot of boring, just kind of like the same old.
Yeah, exactly.
Thing.
Well, yeah, it's a lot of like, well, hey, that was good, but maybe try it, like, dig in deeper. And you're like, what does that mean? I don't know. I'll figure it out.
Yeah.
But we were really, really pleased with how the record turned out, and we're really excited about the next one. OT2, I guess, Ottoman Turks 2, we're just gonna call it that.
Okay, so these 20 songs, you know, like what's the time span? Obviously, you know, you said the band's 10 years, but I'm assuming like there's not much material that has seeped its way.
There are songs on the first record and on the second one that we played at our first show.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Like what?
So let's see. There's one. Okay, well, this one we didn't play at our first show. We played at our second. Can't Promise Nothing. It's a third song in what we call the trilogy. It starts side B on the first record. It's I Find Myself More Lonesome Every Day, OCP, and then Can't Promise Nothing's the third one. That was a song that I finished writing, and then we played at our second show ever, which was at a coffee shop, which did not go over well because we were pretty loud even back then. But and then it really kind of runs the whole thing. Apathy is one that I had written a couple years before, but then had just, I don't know, never did anything with. I think there's a demo of it that I had put on SoundCloud just to like kind of get it down. And I think Will reminded me of it at some point. And I had done like another version of it for like a solo project thing. But we'd never tried it with Turks before. And we were practicing for the record, like, I don't know, what else can we put on here to just try and fill it out? Like, what do we have to draw from beyond what we play live? And I think, honestly, the first time we played it in our rehearsal space, Josh pulled out the slide and started doing something similar to what he does on the record, and we were just like, okay, that sounds cool. And then it ended up becoming our second single. So
right. Yeah.
That was pretty fresh and new, and
it's also like the first song on the record, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I just feel like it's such a mood setter.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? My favorite records are those records that feel like a one whole thing, right?
Oh yeah,
and
for sure. Mine too.
I feel like that very much sets the tone of what this record's going to be.
Right.
You know what this band is. You know what I mean?
Well, that is a compliment. Yeah, that's what we hoped. You know.
Yeah. I think like one of my favorite aspects of your songwriting is like there's this a little bit of this like tongue-in-cheek kind of like snarl, especially like on something like Apathy or like where it can be, there's a few songs where you go, you're making like light of like hard situations.
Yeah.
Is that something that you felt like you feel like you've just comes natural, or is it something that you've realized only when other people have mentioned it?
There's an element, I think, of playing music that is like I was in theater in high school and stuff, so there's always been an element of that where I'm like putting on a character, or it's being able to face things in yourself or in your life, or things that you observe that you would have a hard time facing just head on, I guess. And so there's kind of, I think that has something to do with it. And just, I've always, it kind of goes hand in hand. I've always, like, if there's something tough or uncomfortable, I always kind of have to face it with a joke, like
right.
if you're going to cry about it, you might as well laugh about it or whatever. So I think that kind of is a big part of how I write, is like, okay, so here's the situation, how do I flip it on its head and kind of like make light of it, but also like hint at the darkness. We were listening to just random stuff on the way up, everything from Franz Ferdinand to 90s country, and but Roger Miller came on, and so I'm still thinking about him because he's so good at that. It's always like this really dark thing, but it's laugh out loud funny every time.
Right.
So that's a big influence on me, and I think Josh too. But we always try to have, especially in Turks, it lends itself well to having that Roger Miller element in it.
Yeah. Roger Miller. There's like this story about him being a firefighter in Amarillo.
Really?
And being
never heard this.
Yeah, and being like fired because he literally missed the fucking call, like to go put out a fire.
Yeah, that's kind of the step one, I think. Right?
Yeah, right. But he's such a great songwriter as far as like picking out the saddest universal feeling, but also like being able to go, wink at it, know, and be like.
Yeah. And also say like, I did that. Like that was my fault or whatever, like, because that's such a hard thing to face too sometimes, Apathy is not the character in Apathy or whatever is based off of real experiences that I have lived, but it's not a good person, so it's also about trying to make those people and yourself and accept yourself, just make them human, you know?
Right. I was talking with someone about this earlier, about like one of the strongest suits as a songwriter you can have is empathy, right?
Yeah, for sure.
And it is the like that's what I think a lot of artists are able to tap into,
Right.
Understanding the worst kinds of people, or the worst in people, and personifying that for 3.5, 5 minutes, or whatever the case is, and
find a way to make it. That's the trick too, is find a way to make it kind of universal, because it's like, you may not be a musician, but we've probably all felt the same thing. So like, how do you talk about being a musician, or the life of being a musician, but then also make it applicable to a bunch of things or a bunch of people? And that's a difficult thing to do, but that's the fun that's the challenge of writing and all that makes it so fun.
Yeah.
This episode is sponsored by Hill Barbecue here in Lubbock, Texas. As you know, COVID-19 and social distancing and this quarantine in general is having a major impact on local and small business. A lot of places have had to adapt their game plans going forward. One of those places has been Hill Barbecue. It's been one of my favorite spots here in Lubbock. Andrew and Jewel Hill, the owners and operators, first opened up back in 2018 over in Levelland. At that time, they were called Embers Barbecue. Since then, they've moved over to downtown Lubbock, changed their name to Hill Barbecue, and have just been gaining some significant traction with the locals and getting steady press in. They were featured on Texas Meatly, had a pretty big front page spread over on the Lubbock Avalanche Journal, and got the seal of approval from, I guess, like the barbecue godfather, barbecue editor Daniel Vaughn over at Texas Monthly. They've been incredibly music and art friendly as well. They set up at First Friday Art Trail. They've been set up at Blue Light Live as well for special events. The guys over in American Aquarium and songwriters like Ross Cooper and Grady Spencer, they're all major fans as well. But as I mentioned earlier, small businesses and restaurants have been greatly affected by quarantine 2020. What Hill Barbecue has done has been to transition into a non-contact delivery every few weeks. Luckily, this is one of those weeks. You can pre-order for a Saturday delivery if you act now. It's super easy. You head over to realtexasgrit.com, click on pre-order, and you'll have about 8 options on what you can order. You can get the Flatlander, the Vaquero, the Holy Roller. Each of them comes with a pound of juicy brisket, 2 beef links, 2 large sides, and all the fixings. And then depending on which one you choose of those 3, you'll get additionally some like ribs or turkey or pulled pork. Or you can just get them all if you order, the biggest one of all, the Bad Hombre. I don't know if you have any, maybe you have like 10 kids and you have to feed everybody. I went ahead and got the Vaquero. That's the one that comes with the ribs. So whichever you choose, go ahead and just add it into your cart, and it's literally just like ordering anything that you've ordered online after that. Address, credit card number, all that kind of stuff. If you want a delivery for this week, you'll need to get your order in by Friday morning by 9 a.m. After that, they'll be shutting down orders until the next time. Just for clarity, I'm talking about April 10th. That's when you'll need to be getting your orders in by 9 a.m. And then they will deliver April 11th, Saturday, the following day. Again, Hill Barbecue is some mighty fine West Texas Panhandle barbecue. Andrew and Jewel, they are awfully nice and earnest and hardworking and just really salt of the earth kind of folks who just happen to make really, really incredible, great barbecue. I'll throw in a link into the show notes, but again, just head over to realtexasgrit.com and pre-order.
You mentioned John Pedigo, producing the record. He produced Josh,
right?
His forthcoming record. Mm-hmm. I think like forthcoming is probably like journalists' favorite word. If you look at once I mention it now, go look at any article you read.
I'm not going to stop seeing it.
Pop up. Anyways, I guess like most people may know him from the O's.
Right.
But it feels like this last couple of years he's just really pushed a whole bunch of records that he's produced.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, he's got a knack for it, man.
Well, what is it? Do you think that where he's been able to get the best out of all these different bands? Because that's another thing is I don't think like that. All these bands, all these records aren't the same record.
That's very true. Yeah. That's a good question, actually. And I don't know if I've ever really stopped to think about it. He's a music lover. He's got a way. He hears songs, and it could be any pop songs. But if he gets it, then he loves it, and he can pick it apart. We always talk about how in the studio he'll like tell you. I kind of alluded to it earlier, but he'll tell you like this random phrase, like, you know, I don't know, that sounded too this way. You should play it like you're eating a cheeseburger. And you're like, okay, all right, I think I understand. And then for some reason that next take, you're going to be like, all right, I'm eating a cheeseburger right now. And you play it like that, and all of a sudden it like works. So he's just got this way of hearing music, describing music. And we're huge fans of his own music. He's got that Pedigo's Magic Pilsner. And so I think probably everybody that records with him is also just a fan. And so we can appreciate each other in a way. Trash cans.
Yeah.
In a way that just works. Yeah, I don't know.
I wonder if
There's
it's
magic
if it's
somewhere.
if his trick is saying something like that, and it just makes you take your mind off of what you were doing originally.
Probably. Yeah.
And you're just thinking about that, and like
It takes you
why
out
is
of it
that?
enough, but you're still in it enough. Yeah, that's probably true.
But yeah, like I guess like some of these records that he's done is Ottoman Turks,
Right.
The records by Josh, 40 Acre Mule,
Right. Which he also plays guitar in. So
yeah, I
it's
saw.
like, yeah.
I guess he was opening for. They were opening for. I think it was a Charlie Crockett show.
Yeah, that
probably
makes
like
sense. Yeah.
6 months ago, over here at Cactus, and it was. I fucking loved it.
Yeah, they're great.
And I think did he not do the? Did he do the Vandaliers, the Native record?
Yes, he did the Native, and I think Amerikinda with them as well, their first record. And then he's got a couple. He's recorded with a few other people, but I think it's mostly like singles have come out and stuff like that. But yeah.
Yeah. Well, what is it like? It feels like there's this. I always think that if you're not in it, you always probably think it's a little bit bigger and a little bit more connected than it maybe really is. But like, what's happening like right now in this Dallas scene that just feels like there's a lot of stuff
That's a good
coming
question.
together.
Yeah, I think it is connected. I don't think anybody really stopped to think about it until like this last year or 2 years, you know, because it was just, well, Texas in general, Austin maybe not, but Texas has so much good stuff going on in general, but it's so disconnected from everything else. People just pass over it, you know. I mean, you know, Lubbock's a music town too. And Dallas certainly is, or DFW in general, kind of the whole metroplex. And so I think for a long time we didn't think of ourselves as being able to break into anything. We were just doing it in our own insular scene. And then all of a sudden there were certain people that kind of started to do it, Vandaliers, Charlie Crockett, and you're like, oh, okay, that's cool, you know, great. And then you just keep doing your thing, and all of a sudden it's like people started to pick up like, oh, there's something coming out of here. And I think part of it was just a lot of people being friends, playing music in the same scene for a while, and just kind of pushing each other up until the point where people can't ignore it anymore, you know? We've always known, I mean, you know, we've been around since high school, and we would sneak into like Adair's and places like that, which already had that reputation for having great music, and it was like one great residency a night, like through the whole week. I just remember going and being blown away. So it's always been there. I think it's just kind of everybody realized, including the people in the scene, like, oh, we are a part of, or we can be a part of something bigger than just Dallas or Fort Worth or Denton or whatever.
Right.
And slowly, media and things like that. I mean, you can't ignore Charlie Crockett's records,
Right, yeah. I think obviously like social media and the internet
that helps too,
has helped
sure.
immensely connecting these different scenes. But I think there's been these like waves here in Lubbock that when you're in the middle of it, you're not really.
Right.
It's not until someone like it's like that moment in a dream where you realize it's a dream.
Yes, yeah.
Where like there's something in the dream where like it points itself out like, hey, this is a dream, and that's like this. I feel like the same kind of bubble or a wave or rise or whatever in a scene where once someone mentions it, then you go, oh yeah, I guess so. Like all these things are kind of happening, and it feels. Like that's what's kind of happening right there right now.
I think so, for sure.
What is it about Dallas that's kind of like, is Dallas like the city in like the Metroplex area, this like mix of super city, like
it's big,
obviously like just highway and country and like you mentioned Adair's. How has that influenced and like shaped the sound of Ottoman Turks?
Well, bands, that we kind of knew of, like I said, we didn't know that we were going to take it seriously until we, started to, like, out of necessity, like, we have to do this. But we were always kind of around. Well, okay, so for me, I had a turning point. When I came back from Chicago, Josh had just started this open mic, sort of. It was a songwriter night at this little bar that's since closed, called Amsterdam Bar. And they had just started, I think they'd done a few weeks before I came home. And then it was him and a couple other songwriters. And I was like, oh man, like all this, I've been just inundating myself with music because I was not happy where I was at. So I was just like in my dorm, like soaking myself in blues and country and just whatever I could find. And then I came back and all of a sudden there were these writers around. I'm like, oh, everybody does this. Like, I'm not the only one writing songs. I knew Josh did, I knew Billy did, but then there were these other people that I'd never met before, and then it slowly kind of connected all the dots for me. We'd all kind of grown up in Dallas. I'd moved around a bunch as a kid, but then landed in Dallas in like 6th grade, so it had been a while. And I think there is something funny about it. It's got a reputation, Big D and all that, live large, whatever kind of mentality. But it's still got that very Texan thing. So it's this funny mix of super upscale and then also, kind of poverty and country. It's rural in random places in the suburbs, and they're being developed and all that. So especially back then, like it was all on the rise. So there's this kind of very urban element to Ottoman Turks, I think. It's kind of like, not to compare it to this, but I was big into like the Chicago blues. Like Howlin' Wolf's he's probably I stopped listening to the blues when I heard Howlin' Wolf because I was like, this is how you do it. Like he's the guy. That's all I ever have to listen to again. But so that was kind of the same thing where it has this, they all were influenced by the Delta and Mississippi, but then they moved to Chicago. So it's got this very like city feel to it, but with this influence of the rural. And I think Dallas, especially, 10 years ago, had that feel still. It's very Texan, but it was also very big city. And I think that definitely seeps its way into what Turks does.
Yeah.
And then, just all of there's a lot of great songwriting for some reason that lives there. So.
Right. I think like I've never lived in a big city before, and it's just I at this point I don't think I could. But like if you get that many people, there's just so many different kinds of music that are happening.
For sure.
Or like not even necessarily music, but just like scenes of
different cultures collide and stuff like that.
And I think like you can't sum up a place like Dallas in one sentence, right?
Sure.
You mentioned like the poverty aspect, right?
Yeah,
like the gentrification that's happening,
Yes.
right? the filling up of the suburbs, but like also at the same time, I think like you also think of, and this is like an old ass reference, but like the show Dallas.
I almost
right?
referenced it, to be honest, because that's the reputation Dallas has, and I mean, there's an element of truth to it. Those people certainly like live in Dallas.
There's this photo that I saw on Instagram, and it's like, not Instagram but Twitter, and it's like of, I guess in the 50s, and it's like this cowboy watching his cattle, and he's like in the middle of a pasture, but like he sees Dallas like in the distance, and it's like this, the all these tall buildings and the skyline, right? And you just get this like the
juxtaposition of
like the juxtaposition, but also like that feeling of the like that it's just coming, you know what I mean? Like
encroaching,
the inevitable
the storm clouds on the horizon.
It is like it's like that's exactly what it is.
I love that sort of thing. I actually what I graduated in was architecture, so that's like a kind of, I love that sort of thing. And there's a lot of really cool pictures if you look up. Central is a highway 75 in Dallas, and they just kind of built it, I think, in the 50s, and they just built it north. And so there's some really cool pictures of it, just this highway to nowhere, because there's just fields everywhere. Like, there were no suburbs yet. So, like, once it got out of Dallas proper, there's just nothing, but it's kind of the same thing. You can see it coming. Like, I'm sure when they laid down Central, all those farmers were just like, this is the beginning of the end. But there's still some, you drive up Central, there's still some, like, farmland that clearly the people just haven't sold. Yeah, that's awesome. That's really cool.
Yeah, it's like it's just one of those things where it's city and town and country, right?
Right. I mean, and that's kind of a Texan element too, you know?
Yeah. I think this is probably going off subject, but I remember, I guess I watched a Vox video, like about how interstates kind of like ruin cities.
Yeah.
And they mentioned like DFW as like
interesting
these, and I know like about how, and the reasoning on it is that they've made interstates go through, instead of like making interstates go around cities,
right?
Interstates go right through them,
and it kind of cuts things off.
Yeah, and you get a whole lot of different neighborhoods getting cut off, destroyed, obviously.
Yeah. A lot of the slums, I think, in Dallas just became highways.
Exactly, concrete and asphalt.
Right.
And it's all these obviously poor people, a lot of people of color,
right,
who just have no power and have no way to say,
for sure,
hey, there's no way to like voice their opinion,
right,
or to organize or anything.
Yep. And it's funny, like I think unlike some cities, I think the highways in Dallas really work now, but you read up on the history and just the things that were destroyed in the process of making Dallas what it is now. And Dallas has a horrible history of that. Like anything cool and old, they tore down. And still do, really. Like it's really rough, especially I'm a hardcore preservationist for things like that. And so it's heartbreaking. I can't even pick up one of those like then and now books for Dallas because I'm like, I'll cry. It's horrible.
Yeah.
But I mean, that kind of influences it too. I mean, Deep Ellum, which is, like where Aders is and all that, is still such an important part of music because it was the one like black neighborhood that like kind of they kept or didn't pave over, and they almost did. But so it managed to hang on to the culture that like still kind of survives to this day. And of course it's been gentrified and all that. But that's actually my parents, when I was in high school and before, moved basically to Deep Ellum. And it was not as like developed as it is now. So I've got to see the whole thing, and it's a catch-22. Like there's people there on weeknights, which that was not the case when I was growing up. But then you also get the gentrification, and like it's not exactly the same. It doesn't have the heart that it necessarily did before, but you can still find it.
Yeah.
And it's nice that it's still there. Like,
I do think that like that's as humans, we do have the nostalgia of everything, right? And
For sure.
I think like obviously one of the biggest parts of nostalgia that I find is that the reason you love something from before is simply because you're younger then.
Yeah, right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, and you can look at it through those kind of rose-colored glasses.
And like of course like people were younger that you loved, right?
Right.
That entire aspect, but it's not necessarily always better back then. You
Right.
know what I mean?
Yeah.
But whatever that is that you're trying to remember, there are those pockets still out there, and that like it's your job to find them
Yeah,
or to
for
create
sure.
them
Or even just remember them to some degree. You know, you can acknowledge the bad with the good, but I think it's important to, you know, preserve it and not just pave over it and like pretend like it was never there. You
Right.
know, it's about balancing the nostalgia, I guess.
Yeah.
In a way.
Yeah. See, I'm from out in Fort Stockton where
Okay, yeah,
there's
yeah.
like we don't have enough like history to knock down and
Right,
rebuild. You
right,
know what I
right.
mean? So it's always been. But even in that, like I think, growing up there, I'd never really appreciated or understood that a lot of the history is still around. Like if you go
Yeah.
to a lot of other West Texas towns, like their downtowns are all dead.
Yeah, yeah.
You know,
For sure.
because of Walmart.
Everything, yeah, right. Big boxes and highways, and
yeah.
yeah.
But it's I don't know, man. Yeah, I think we've been running here for a little
Yeah.
bit. here.
Okay. Yeah. Sorry.
yeah,
Get
yeah.
into the architecture and Dallas history and.
Yeah, we'll see.